ng extrajudicial killings sa Pilipinas ang dapat pag-usapan. Nararapat lang daw ang ginawa ni Obama matapos insultuhin ni Pangulong Duterte.
With respect to the Philippines, President Obama made exactly the right choice. And clearly, the president was going to raise concerns that are global about what is going on in the Philippines with extrajudicial killings of alleged drug dealers that is now somewhere up near 2,000 killings. And when the president of the Philippines insulted our president, it was appropriate in a very low-key way to say, sorry, no meaning.
Samantala, tinawag naman ni Republican Presidential Candidate Donald Trump na terrible ang pagtatong natatanggap ngayon ni Obama. Pinuna niya ang hindi paglatag ng red carpet stairway ng China nang dumating ang Air Force One. US President Obama sa G20 Summit sa China. At binanggit din ni Trump ang pagmumura ni Pangulong Duterte kay Obama.
I am a president of a sovereign state, and we have long ceased to be a colony. I do not have any master except the Filipino people. Nobody but nobody. You must be respectful. Do not just throw away questions and statements. Putang ina, mumurahin kita dyan sa forum na yan. Mga ganunin. Tell that to everybody. Ito mga kolumnista, para ba akong tinatakot? Anak ka na. Umalis kayo dyan sa Pilipinas. Pumunta kayo doon sa Amerika. You write columns, you're the lapdogs of this American. Who is it to confront me? As a matter of fact, he has too many. America has one too many to answer for the misdeeds in this country. Hanggang ngayon, hindi pa tayo nakatigil ng apology niyan. That is the reason why Mindanao continues to boil. Sabi mo, that was the last century. Yang wounds na yan from generation to generation. As a matter of fact, we inherited this problem from the United States. Why? Because they invaded this country and made us their subjugated people. Everybody has a terrible record of extrajudicial killing. Why make an issue about fighting crime? Nahingi na niya maubos-ubos yan sa Mexico border niya. Look at the human rights of America along that line. The way how they treat the migrants there. Masyado kayong believe sa Amerika. Bumilib kayo dito sa atin, Amerika. Siya ang mag-explain sa akin kung bakit ganyang extrajudicial killing nila. Can he explain the 600,000 Moro massacred in this island? Do you want to see the pictures? Maybe I'll ask him. I'll make it public. We have a recorded history of that sordid period of our national life. Nobody but nobody can just, sino ka? Yung mga American Indians mo, sa sili lang, inubos mo eh. What about the rights of those guys who died in the past? Is it because it's just the past tense, we do not answer for the present tense? You must be kidding. Stop joking yourself. Kayong mga sobra ka-believe diyang, who is you, Obama, to ask me that? I'll tell him, who are you? Tell him that. Telegraph mo ngayon. Di ako punta dito na pagka-ulila dyan sa mga.
I want to ask you about tomorrow, the next leg of your trip a little bit. And tomorrow you're going to be meeting for the first time with President Duterte. And he's a leader whose war on drugs has led to the death of about 2,400 people in just the last 2 months since he took office. And today he said in a very colorful way that that you better not bring this up. And I'm wondering Are you committed to raising this with President Duterte? And are you concerned that meeting him legitimizes his approach on this issue?
Well, I just came out of a long day of meetings, so I just heard about some of this, but I have seen some of those colorful statements in the past, and so clearly he's a colorful guy. And what I've instructed my team to do is to talk to their Philippine counterparts to find out, is this in fact a time where we can have some constructive, productive conversations? Obviously, the Filipino people are some of our closest friends and allies, and the Philippines is a treaty ally of ours. But I always want to make sure that if I'm having a meeting that it's actually productive and we're getting something done. We recognize the significant burden that the drug trade plays not just in the Philippines but around the world, and fighting narco trafficking is tough. But we will always assert the need to have due process and to engage in that fight against drugs in a way that's consistent with basic international norms. And so undoubtedly, if and when we have a meeting, that this is something that's going to be brought up. And my expectation, my hope is that it could be dealt with constructively. But I'll have my team discuss this. I've got a whole bunch of folks that I'm going to be meeting with over the course of the next several days. And as I said, historically, our relationship with the Philippines is one of our most important. And my relationship with the Philippine people has been extraordinarily warm and productive. So I expect that will continue, but I want to make sure that the setting is right and the timing is right for us to have the best conversation possible. Well, as I said, I'm going to just make an assessment. I just got out of these meetings. What is certainly true is that the issues of how we approach fighting crime and drug trafficking is a serious one for all of us, and we've got to do it the right way.
Sure. I wanted to ask about the cancellation of the meeting with Duterte. The president said yesterday, this wasn't going to affect our long-term relationship with the Philippines, but how is that the case if the president and the head of this other, our ally, are essentially in a war of words with each other, and the office of the Philippine leader said that the decision to cancel the meeting was mutual? Is that the case, or did the U.S. basically inform them that this was not happening?
Well, look, first of all, the nature of our alliance with the Philippines has been and remains rock solid. We have incredibly close working relationships with the government of the Philippines on issues related to disaster response, maritime security, diplomatic coordination on issues related to the South China Sea, economic, commercial, and people-to-people ties. So I think people should certainly expect that our very close working relationship with the Philippines is going to be enduring. And in fact, we continue to consult closely at a variety of levels. And in fact, I think Chairman Dumford has even been in the Philippines recently, if not today, for a Chiefs of Defense meeting. With respect to the bilateral meeting, I think it was our judgment that given the focus of attention on President Duterte's comments leading into the meetings here, we felt that did not create a constructive environment for a bilateral meeting. All of the attention, frankly, was on those comments, and therefore not on the very substantive agenda that we have with the Philippines. Again, given that focus, we felt that it wasn't the right time to have a bilateral meeting between the two presidents, and that's something that we discussed with officials from the government of the Philippines last night. Again, going forward, I would expect our close cooperation to continue, and where we also have differences, we'll continue to speak to those. And as President Obama said, for any country in the world, not just the Philippines, we'll certainly support very robust counter-narcotic efforts, but we also want to make sure that they're consistent with the rule of law and due process, and that too will be a message that we continue to carry forward.
Yang talaga, maganda po sana ng pagkakataon na mapag-usapan nila yung mga issues at mga principles of common concern sa buong international community, kahit itinataguyod pa rin natin yung ating independence sa anumang maaring pakikialam ng ibang mga bansa. So sayang talaga. Umaasa na lang ako na magkakaroon pa sila ng ibang pagkakataon in the future na makapag-usap at malay natin makabuo ng mga pagkakasundo at pagtutulungan sa iba't ibang mga issue. Sa kabila ng aking panghihinayang, kaya sinabi ko sayang di sila makapag-usap ngayon, sana sa susunod ay samantalahin yung ganyang pagkakataon para ipagpatuloy at improve yung matagal ng relasyon ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos. Ganun din sa ibang mga bansa. Wala akong unsolicited advice para kay Presidente. Nasabi ko na rin naman dati yung thoughts ko sa usaping iyan. Basta't sa ganitong mga international meetings sana, sa ibang heads of state man o sa heads man ng mga international bodies, ang pag-asa naman ng bawat isa nating mga Pilipino ay sa pamamagitan ng ating chief executive ay maging mabunga yung ganyang mga pag-uusap nila at mag-redown sa benepisyo ng nating mga mamamayan.
Well, I don't think it will affect the relationship between the two presidents or the two countries. I don't believe it will be a problem. Sa tingin ko tuloy pa rin ang pagsasama po ng Estados Unidos at ang Pilipinas laban, for example, sa terorismo, laban sa drug problem.
Senator Leila De Lima, dapat maging parehas ka, hindi ka maging bias sa committee na yan, sa investigasyon ng itong killing na ito, itong mga killings na ito na nangyayari. Dapat siya, yung parehas, hindi ipakita niya sa taong bayan na parehas siya, hindi niya idiin yung mga pulis dahil ang mga pulis ginagawa yung tungkulin. Yan ang pangarap namin na linisin ng hanay ng kapulisan at hindi lang sa kapulisan, ang gobyerno natin. Yan ang namin direksyon ng Presidente.
That despite last week's or these statements hurled against you, that this inquiry will be fair?
I am a fair, professional, and responsible public official. I do not for a second believe that.
Yung tugo kay Senator De Lima, when you say na hindi siya dapat biased, if I'm not mistaken, Senator Alan Cayetano had asked her na mag-inhibit na lang kayo dahil nga yung issues of bias. No? Tapos ang sagot naman niya is parang, di ba, ang sagot si Alan ang biased? Parang may ganon, ano? What do you think of that? Dapat ba siyang mag-inhibit or okay lang, ituloy niya yung hearings?
Kahit hindi niya sabihin hindi siya bias, makikita yan. Common sense lang eh. Hindi naman siguro tayo pinanganak kahapon o hindi naman siguro tayo na wala tayong pinag-aralan. malalaman natin yung reaksyon, mga salita.
And otherwise, hindi sila naglaban, buhay sila, Your Honor. Much as I would want to believe you, sir. I hope you believe me, Your Honor.
How they process the investigation, yung mga pangyayari. Makikita kaagad natin.
Okay.
I believe that.
Our top story today, the Senate investigation into extrajudicial killings. We now speak with Senator Leila De Lima live from the Senate. Good morning, Senator. Welcome to Newsroom.
Good morning, Amelie. Good morning to your viewers.
So the Senate investigation on the spate of killings related to the anti-drug campaign will begin today. What are you prepared for in today's hearing?
Oh, well, of course, this is the opening, and there would be certain preliminary matters There would be opening statements, of course, from me as the chair of the Committee on Justice and Human Rights, and also from the chair of the Committee on Public Order and Illegal Drugs, and also other senators who would wish to deliver their respective opening statements. And we would also ask our resource persons to also deliver their respective opening statements if they so desire. And then hopefully we can already begin with the presentation of our witnesses, because this is a public inquiry. This is basically fact-finding. This is truth-telling. This is not a court of law, but simply a fact-finding body.
Now, we understand that you have proposals, and one of which is to have stricter rules on police operations. What do you believe should change, or what do you believe should be added to this to improve it?
Well, there are actually a few proposals already, but the committee would rather hear first the proposals and suggestions of the concerned agencies, particularly the Philippine National Police, the Internal Affairs Service, and of course, also from the Commission on Human Rights. Because you see, we know that there are operational guidelines respecting that matter. Now, in fact, I remember that when I was still with the Commission on Human Rights, the CHR helped the PNP draft those operational guidelines. Now, we would want to know what is the current operational guidelines. Have this been changed already? Have this been modified or amended already by the current or previous leaderships of the PNP? So we'd rather that we first hear from them what are their proposals, although at my level, I do have some ideas already.
And which you would like to present to the public later on as well, ma'am? Those ideas?
It really depends on the discussions later, because what is important today and tomorrow is to be able to hear the accounts of the witnesses as well as the reports of the various agencies, particularly the PNP, on the statistics of the killings. Why is this happening? Are these cases of killings being investigated, etc.? So all other discussions with respect to the possible laws, it really depends on the senators, individual senators, whether or not they would want also to touch on those matters in the course of their questioning of either the witnesses or the resource persons. But those matters can actually be discussed also in other meetings or hearings of the committee.
Now, the President laments that police are also killed in the ongoing anti-drug operations, and he said that it's an average of 2 or 3 during these operations. Will you look into that as well?
We can also look into that. If that is raised, if that is included in the report that we are expecting from the PNP leadership, then I don't see any reason why we won't look into that also. But of course, the focus is on these killings of alleged drug suspects in the name of the so-called war on drugs.
Ma'am, how will you ensure that despite last week's or these statements hurled against you, that this inquiry will be fair?
I am a fair, professional, and responsible public official. So I guarantee everyone that as the presiding officer of this inquiry, I will conduct the proceedings in the most professional manner, giving due courtesy and respect to our resource persons and witnesses, because that is in fact provided in our own rules.
Ma'am, do you think you have supporters or not much supporters in the Senate? And if so, is it important for you to gain more support from the Senate?
Well, I do believe that many or most of the senators support this inquiry, because it is such a big issue. It has even attracted already the attention of the international community, international media networks, are reporting this, phenomenon of summary executions, and I won't be surprised if they will also be covering this inquiry. So I know that the majority, if not most of the senators, and in fact maybe all of the senators, really support it. There is no denying the fact that this is a very important issue of public interest and national importance, and this is something bigger than Senator Leila De Lima.
Now, the president has criticized you with regard to how inmates at the Bilibid prison during your term as Secretary of Justice had enjoyed immense privileges. He questions why this was so, if not for having the blessings from higher officials. And as a matter of fact, there's a possible probe at the House of Representatives with regard to this. What's your reaction?
I have responded to that accusation, to that allegation, to that insinuation many times already.
Okay, so
and it's up to the House of Representatives if they will proceed with that House inquiry. Let's see what are the real objectives of that inquiry. Other than that, I would not want to comment on that.
Now, on the drug controversy allegedly concerning your former driver, in an interview, you've denied having your driver get money from drug lords on your behalf, but is it possible that your driver could have engaged in such an illegal activity without your knowledge?
I would not want to be answering those questions at this point. What I can say at this point, by way of reiteration, is that I am not in any way connected, linked to, or involved in drugs. That's all I need to assert. I stand by that assertion. I stand by my innocence up to my last breath.
Now, the president hinted that that your driver, Mr. Dayan, may turn against you, and I understand that you already have knowledge that there may be people your colleagues or other individuals who have been spoken to speak against you. Now, wouldn't it be better if Mr. Dayan would present himself to clear your name?
Again, I would not want to touch on that, Ameline. I'm sorry. I'd rather that we focus on the inquiry, because precisely in the last few days, perhaps, I don't know, wittingly or unwittingly, some elements have been trying to distract or divert the real issue at hand. The very issue at hand is the issue of summary executions, extralegal killings or extrajudicial killings, EJKs or ELKs, including the so-called vigilante killings. That is what this inquiry is all about.
Okay. Now, the president has said, I'd just like to quote him, Senator De Lima. He said that the Napoles case should deserve a second look, or else also it involves corruption and De Lima. What do you have to say about that?
I'd like to think that's another diversionary tactic being employed in an effort to possibly block or derail the Senate inquiry. That has always been, again, another old issue. That is, again, a rehashed issue. And again, just like the alleged drug connection or my involvement in drugs, I flatly, vehemently, categorically deny any irregularity on my part in any of the matters affecting the Napoles and the PDAF case. They have not even explain why there is a need for a so-called second look at the Napoles case. Again, a clear squid diversionary tactic. It's so unfortunate.
Okay, and last question, ma'am. Amidst all these things that are happening to you right now, how are you holding up?
Of national emergency on account of lawless violence, focusing on terrorism, Although mas maganda ko sana kung inuna na muna na sa Mindanao lang muna, kasi yung mga cited incidents naman, iba sa whereas marami mga sinite na mga incidents including bombings, including let me just check again, yung abductions, hostage, murder of innocent civilians, bombing of power transmission facilities, highway robberies, extortions, attacks on military outposts, assassinations of media people, mass jailbreaks, although inaalam ko pa kung ano yung mass jailbreaks, sapat na dahilan na there is an atmosphere of lawless violence. If we have all of those incidents, the premise here are all of these incidents of updated incidents and occurring or occur in the area of Mindanao. So mas maganda po sana kung Mindanao lang. Pero we can also give them the benefit of doubt when they say that these acts of terrorism are expected or may spill over the rest of the country, lalo na mga metropolitan areas like the National Capital Region. So in that sense, sa tingin ko, defensible po ito. Kung meron mag-question about this, maaaring i-affirm ito ng Supreme Court dahil dun po sa, kung naalala niyo po, in the aftermath of the Maguindanao Massacre, meron din, may question din yung naging declaration of state of emergency ng dating Pangulong Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Although the difference is that doon lang sa affected areas including Maguindanao. Hindi ito nationwide. Now, sabi ng korte doon, ang Pangulo, ang opisina ng Pangulo, sila ang nakakaalam tungkol sa factual basis ng mga ganyang deklarasyon. So, if it is not shown na mali pala yung factual basis or there is no showing na the factual basis is wrong, ay hindi pwedeng pakialaman ng korte ang ganyang desisyon o hakbang ng isang Pangulo. So, in that sense, for as long as na-justify nila yan, yung mga factual basis na yan, siguro naman many of these are really, alam naman natin yun, yung mga ganitong mga insidente, nababalita naman yung mga iba dito, then okay lang yun. But then again, the matter about national in scope, baka titingnan pa ng gusto yan ng Supreme Court kung itong issue na ito ay makarating sa Supreme Court. Now, having said that, gusto ko rin mong umaano sa isipan ko nung nakita ko itong proclamation including the implementing guidelines is that di ko ba, bago nila linabas itong written document na ito, ay mismo na pong ang Pangulo and maski na rin si Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Panelo, nababanggit nila na merong lawlessness, may lawless violence dahil sa mga killings. I think you can all check out yung mga naging statements ng Pangulo at the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel na they mentioned killings. And in fact, si CPL Panelo, he was already saying na meron na kaming draft o nag-draft na nga kami ng proclamation na yan bago pa man nangyari Davao bombing. So kung meron ng draft o di-draft na nila yung proclamation na yon bago pa man nangyari yung Davao bombing, ang posible lang na pwede nilang i-cite at that time were the killings. At nadagdagan na lang dapat ng insidente ng bombing. So bakit dun sa final version ng kanilang proklamasyon ay nakatuon na lang sa terrorism? Siguro may mga nag-isip talaga sa palasyo na malalagay sila sa alanganin kung ilalagay din nila as basis yung so-called lawlessness, lawless violence on account of the killings. Kasi di ba may mga nagsasabi, ngayon lang tayo nakakita na safe tayo, meron na tayong mga safe streets. Gawa ng all-out intensified war against drugs. So, tahimik na ngayon, natutuwa na yung ating mga kababayan na tahimik na, the streets are safe, free from drug pushers, free from drug users, from troublemakers. Right? So, kung sasabihin nila na na rason yan to declare a national emergency or a state of lawlessness, that would be engaging in self-contradiction.
Okay.
Correct?
Pagiging indefinite, ma'am.
So may nag-isip na hindi maganda na ilagay din nila as basis, as reason, yung killings.
With those concerns, may bago ba kayo na hindi ng Senate agree to increase or do
Kung gagawin ko na naman yun, takot na naman na gagawin na naman sa akin. Ito lang ang Senate inquiry sa killings, sobra na yung ginagawa sa akin. Ano pa kaya kung meron pa akong mga hakbang? But it won't deter me from taking any step or any move within the confines of my mandate as an elected senator na mag-isip na kung ano ang pwede gawin kung may mga questions dyan sa hakbang na yan. But let me again make it clear that the way it is drafted, the way that it appears now, mukhang magiging defensible given the existing jurisprudence nung sinabi kong kaso yung sa state of emergency in the aftermath of the Maguindanao massacre. Ang magiging issue na lang dito is the nationwide scope, if that is also defensible, pwede nilang ma-justify. Now, doon naman sa implementing guidelines, meron din ako napansin. And I think napansin na rin ito ng ilang mga mambabatas, lalo na sa House of Representatives. Yung tungkol sa warrantless arrest. Walang problema doon sa first three na sinight nila. You know, yung a crime has been committed or is about to be committed, yung mga inflagrante delicto, yung mga ganun, o kaya a crime has just been committed in a matter of hours, a few hours, pwede pang arestuhin yung salarin kahit walang aresto. Tsaka yung pangatlo, yung kapag tumakas ang isang preso, hindi na kailangan uli ng warrant of arrest bago siya i-aresto uli. Yung pang-apat, medyo
If you waive your
problematic po sa akin. When the person arrested or to be arrested has voluntarily waived his right against warrantless arrest. We're talking here about warrantless arrest. No, dapat kapag warrantless arrest, yung tatlo lang na situations yan. So bakit dadagdagan ng ganito? Well, of course, it can be perceived, taken to mean or to refer to situations of the so-called voluntary surrender. Di ba, meron din naman instances of voluntary surrender. Pero, ang pagkakaalam ko, kapag sinabing voluntary surrender, karamihan ng mga kaso ng voluntary surrender ay kapag meron ng warrant of arrest. So, ibang usapin naman yung tungkol sa warrantless arrest. So, paano na natin malalaman na kung yung taong inaaresto na hindi naman covered dun sa tatlong recognized instances of warrantless arrest ay nagtunay na nag-waive. Siyempre kapag inaaresto ka na, papalag ka pa ba? Diba? At saka madali namang pilitin ang isang inaaresto na inaaresto ka namin, wala kaming warrant. Bakit nyo ko inaaresto? Kasi meron kang ginawang kalukuhan ng last week, meron kang pinatay last week, o meron kang ninakawan last week. Inaaresto ko na namin ngayon kasi nakita ka namin ngayon. Wave na, wave. Papalag pa ba yun?
Prone to abuse.
My point here is that there may be some legal rationale for this, and maybe refer to that concept of voluntary surrender, pero ibang konteksto po yung voluntary surrender na alam ko. Pero kung hindi po ito hindi nila malinawan o hindi nila ilinaw ito, I'm afraid that this is gonna be prone to abuse. Ganun din yung sa sa warrantless searches and seizures. Okay lang yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yung first 6, yan naman talaga ang mga recognized instances of warrantless searches and seizures. Either by the rules of criminal procedure, under the rules of criminal procedure, or or jurisprudence. Kasama itong stop and frisk. Pero yung search arising from exigent and emergency circumstances, again, mukhang bago na naman ito. Sino magdi-define? I think they should first define yung exigent and emergency circumstances. Baka maging prone to abuse.
So pwede questionin ko, ma'am, sa Cortes?
Pwede kong questionin. And I think baka may mga nagbabalak na, especially mga human rights
Mahirap i-defend ko, ma'am.
advocates. First, dating muna siguro, let them clarify. Ano ba itong mga circumstances na ito? Bakit nadagdagan na itong 3? Nadagdagan na naging 4 na? And then dito rin sa warrantless searches and seizures, bakit may strangers sa atin yung last na yan? Search arising from exigent and emergency circumstances.
Yung mga nadagdag na yun?
Let them explain that first. Let them clarify that further. Saan ba nanggaling itong mga exceptions na ito? Sa jurisprudence ba? Bago ba ito? Or what?
Pang martial ba, ma'am, yun? Yung mga nadagdag na yun?
Kasi since it's a declaration of national emergency on account of lawless violence, alam naman nila, nag-ibig lang naman sabihin yan under the Constitution is that pwede nga mag-augment ng forces on the ground. Hindi lang yung PNP as law enforcers, but EAFP, deployment of more forces. Yun ang ibig sabihin lang ng call-out provision or call-out powers na yan ng Pangulo. Hindi pa nga ito martial law. Dinarify naman po nila yan na hindi ito martial law. So ang pananaw ko lang dyan, ingat naman sila na huwag silang nagdadagdag ng mga paran na hindi na magiging sakop ng call-out powers na yan.
Ma'am, yung kayang itong mga nadagdag, especially itong voluntary surrender, etc., hindi kaya pwedeng magamit sa underground war? Kasi di ba ang dami
Yun na nga ang mangyayari. At yun nga ata ang nangyayari. Yun kasi ang nangyayari ngayon. Hindi na natin alam kung yung mga so-called na nagsusurrender ay number 1, are they aware of their rights? Kapag meron silang pinipirmahan na nag-a-admit sila na sila ay either drug pusher or drug user, aware ba sila na bago sila mag-admit ng ganyan, ay kailangan meron munang assistance of counsel. Hindi naman nila alam yan. Ginagawa ba yan? Are the authorities provide them counsel? How or what? Kapag nag-execute na sila ng kung ano-ano dyan.
Ano kayang pwedeng gawin ng mga tao na maaaring maging subject dito sa karagdagang conditions ng arrest, lalo na yung number 4? Yung sa voluntary surrender, yung nag-give ng right, ano kaya pwedeng gawin ng mga tao na maging subject sa ganun?
They won't fall victim to it.
Parang hindi sila na-abuso yung number 4.
Dapat kung magiging sila ng so-called, yung mag-i-waive nila yung right against warrantless arrest, kailangan alam na muna rin nila kung ano ang waive nila. And number 2, dapat pag